Friendship has always fascinated me. I mean, it's one of those cornerstones of life that we usually kind of take for granted until it isn't there. And yet, when you really think about it, it's more than just having someone to share a laugh or grab coffee with. True friendship, it anchors us, keeps us steady, especially when the rest of the world feels chaotic. It's interesting because so often, we measure wealth or success in pretty tangible ways, don't we? Bank accounts, titles, possessions. But where does friendship fit into all that? I would argue that, honestly, it sits above all of it. I mean, think about it. What good is the fancy job title, all the money, or even that dream home if you've got no one to share it with? If anything, friends give all those things their meaning. And here's the thing, true friendship, the kind we're talking about, it isn't transactional. It's not about what someone can, do for you. It's about who they are to you. And I think who you are because of them. That's really the heart of it, isn't it? More than any material success, it's those connections. They're what make us feel alive. I'll share a quick story from my own life. A few years ago, I hit a low point, career-wise. I was doubting pretty much everything, whether I was on the right path, whether any of my work really mattered. And just when I was stuck in that headspace, a friend of mine reached out. Not with solutions, not even with advice, but just to remind me of who I was. We sat, we talked, and he said something that I'll never forget. Eric, your value isn't in what you do. It's in the way you uplift people. And that moment, as simple as it was, shifted everything for me. It wasn't the work that gave me meaning. It was the connections I was building through it. In a way, those moments remind you why friendship feels more spiritual than transactional, right? Friends don't just support us, they see us. And that kind of connection, that's a treasure far beyond anything material. Loneliness, it's a word we throw around pretty casually these days, but it carries a weight, doesn't it? What's fascinating, and maybe a little bittersweet, is how it isn't always tied to being alone. Sometimes you can feel the most isolated when you're surrounded by people, even by the ones you know best. It's like a quiet, internal kind of estrangement, isn't it? I believe it often comes down to connection. Or maybe the lack of it. When the bonds between us start to feel shallow or, transactional, there's this gap that forms. You feel the distance, even if the physical proximity is there. And honestly, it can be more disheartening than being outright alone, because you expect those relationships to be a refuge. And when they aren't, it leaves you wondering, am I the one who's drifting away? And when I look at this through today's lens, this ultra-connected digital era we're living in, it actually seems like it's gotten worse. We have all these tools to stay linked, the constant notifications, the endless streams of updates. But are they really bringing us closer? Or are they just magnifying that feeling of being kind of left out? Like everyone's sharing their highlight reels while you're sitting there with your unedited reality. There's this paradox I keep thinking about. The more ways we have to communicate, the deeper our silences seem to get. And I mean that emotionally, not just verbally. It's as if we've forgotten how to reach each other in ways that really matter, how to be present for one another, even when we're right there in the room. I remember reading this study, not sure where, but it stuck with me, that said meaningful interactions are dwindling in a world of quick text and reactive emojis. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? Are we losing the art of connection? In the rush to stay plugged in, have we disconnected from ourselves and from each other? It's a heavy thought, but one worth exploring. So far we've talked about the soul-deep value of friendship and the quiet ache of losing those ties. But now let's turn to the other side of the coin. How do we nurture and preserve those connections that truly matter? Because honestly, if friendships are as precious as we've been saying, and I think they are, they deserve the effort, don't they? One of the easiest ways to begin is, just to be present. I know, it sounds almost too simple. But in a world that's constantly pulling at our attention, making the intentional choice to tune in, to really listen, can transform a relationship. It's not about having hours of deep conversations every day. It's about those small, meaningful check-ins, like sending a quick message that says, "Hey, I was thinking about you, how are things?" It shows you care and that you're making time, even in busy seasons. Another piece of this puzzle is support. Not in grand gestures, but in those quiet, steady ways that friends lean on each other. I once heard someone say, "Friendship is showing up." And I think that's true in every sense of the word. Celebrating the highs, sharing the lows, and sometimes just sitting beside them in the in-between moments when there's nothing to fix but everything to feel. You don't have to have the answers, you just have to be there. And let's talk about appreciation. When was the last time you said to a friend, "You mean a lot to me"? Think about how often we leave those words unsaid. Not because we don't feel them, but because we assume they already know. The thing is, hearing it matters. It's a reminder not just of the bond you share, but that it's vibrant, alive, worth celebrating. Little acts like that, they're what fill the spaces with warmth and keep the connection thriving. I want to share a story, fictionalized but inspired by some of the things people have told me over the years. It's about someone named Jamie. Jamie had an old friend, Charlie, who they hadn't spoken to in years. No fallout, just life pulling them in different directions. One day, Jamie gets this random wave of nostalgia and decides to reach out. It's awkward at first, like shaking the dust off something forgotten. But with each conversation, they find themselves remembering what they always treasured about Charlie, the way they could laugh at the absurd or turn an ordinary day into something extraordinary. Over time, their friendship began to bloom again, and Jamie found that reconnecting with an old friend didn't just bring back good memories. It reignited a sense of belonging. That's the magic of friendships. They're never truly lost if you're willing to rebuild. So here's the heart of it. Friendships don't just happen, they're tended to. Like anything worth keeping, they need care. And when you nurture them, when you water those roots with presence, support and gratitude, you give them the chance to grow into something even stronger. That's the kind of bond that can carry you, not just through the good times, but the hard ones too. And that's it for today's episode. I hope this reflection on friendship has left you with something meaningful to hold on to, maybe even inspired you to reach out to someone you care about. Remember, the threads we weave with others, they're what keep us grounded, and in many ways they define how rich our lives truly are. Until next time, take care and treasure your connections.